Yeah. Sometimes the mental part, though, can get...
Oh, it just gets tedious. I guess we got a different...
Okay. The Sonora City Council, to report out from our closed session meeting, there's nothing, decisions were made, so there's nothing to report out. So I will now adjourn our closed session meeting, and I will open the Sonora City Council meeting of February the 21st. And our first order of business is to stand and join me in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Council members: Connie Williams.
Here.
Mr. Biervente is absent tonight. Matt Hopkins.
Here.
Mark Clemmer.
Here.
George Segarini.
Here.
Clerk is here. Administrator Tim Miller.
Here.
Our interim engineer is absent. Attorney Douglas White.
Here.
Administrative Services Director Jennifer Callaway.
Here.
Fire Chief Amy New.
Here.
Interim Police Chief Michael Harden.
Here.
And Community Development Director Rochelle Keller.
Here.
Okay, and the city clerk's report on the agenda posting.
At 11:30 a.m. on the 17th of February 2017, the agenda for this meeting was posted outside City Hall for public view.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda. Is there anything that council member needs to change, pull, or add? Seeing nothing, then we will move on to presentations. And this evening we have two. One is the introduction of Police Officer Lance Durham, and the other one is introduction of Police Sergeant Timothy Wirtz. And we will have Chief Harden take over.
Thank you, Mayor Williams and members of the council. Mike Harden, your interim police chief. And I must tell you that probably one of the things that I enjoy most about being a police chief is an opportunity to bring new personnel into the department. Those who are starting their career for the first time, it kind of harkens me back to when I first started, and I think it's a great opportunity. And also, the opportunity to get to promote somebody, and we get to do that tonight as well. So you're going to meet Sonora Police Department's newest sergeant, probably a familiar face to some of you, and then also Sonora Police Department's newest police officer, also a familiar face to some of you. So let me have them stand here. Come on up, Sergeant Wirtz and Officer Durham, and I'll tell you a little bit about them. Tim moved to Tuolumne County in 1982 and graduated from Somerville High School in 1989. He began his law enforcement career with the Tuolumne County Sheriff's Department in 1992, where he has continued to work for the past 25 years. Tim has held such positions as jail deputy, patrol deputy, field training officer, corporal, boat patrol, canine handler, and investigator, and was also a member of the SWAT team for 14 years. He prides himself on being a family man. He and his wife have 4 children and 1 brand new grandchild. Tim's wife, Gina, is a local business owner of Remax Gold here in downtown Sonora. Tim and his family enjoy local outdoor activities such as hiking, skiing, camping, boating, and fishing. He enjoys involving himself in the community and is proud to live and work here. He looks forward to performing the duties of a police sergeant with our great city. He has a wealth of experience in many facets of community service, and he'll be of great value to the Sonora community. And although I didn't have a hand in selecting Tim, I must say that he has my full endorsement. It's as we move and change the culture of the Sonora Police Department, he's the kind of person that I want on my team that will help me do that. And I've gotten to know him just over the last couple of days, and he is a shining star. And it's no easy task to be a supervisor. Lots going to be expected of him. He's got to coach, mentor, evaluate, supervise, and I know he'll do all that and do that very, very well. So we'll do the swearing-in ceremony in just a minute. This is Officer Lance Durham, born and raised in Modesto, California. After high school, he earned an associate's degree in criminal justice at Modesto Junior College, and later completed a bachelor's degree in criminal justice through Stanislaus State University. He enjoys spending time with his family, going to movies, and taking part in outdoor activities such as hiking and softball. Growing up, he enjoyed competitive sports and was inducted into the all-district baseball team for 2 consecutive years. And I can say, from my personal observations, he's one heck of a baseball player. He played baseball with my son. So another interesting fact about Lance is that he played baseball against Colin Kaepernick during his varsity year in high school. Lance began his law enforcement career with the Sonora Police Department when he was hired as a non-sworn community service officer in August of 2015. He went on to compete against several other well-qualified applicants for the position of police officer. He went to the training academy at Delta College and graduated just 2 weeks ago or so, and he's been on the streets for about a week. We're very proud to welcome him to the Sonora Police Department. He'll be a huge addition to what we want to do and how we're going to do it, and he is going to be a strong peer leader, I'm certain, amongst his peers. So with that, we'll do the swearing-in ceremony. Family and friends, you can come around and get a better vantage point for a photograph, but we'll do the ceremony simultaneously. Ready? Raise your right hand, please. I state your name.
I, Lance Durham.
I, Timothy Wertz,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution of the State of California
the Constitution of the United States of California,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
That I will bear
true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations, Sergeant Wertz. This is Lance's mother and Tim's wife. Tim, if you'd like to say something?
Well, I'd like to introduce my whole family, first of all. Took up the whole.
They're all here. They're all here.
I'm totally looking forward to this job, and I look at it more as an experience than anything. You know, it's all new to me, so I'm gung-ho on doing it. So thank you for this opportunity. I very much appreciate it. So.
Welcome to our side.
I'm sorry, I didn't have anything prepared. I wasn't aware that I was going to be speaking, but I just want to thank everyone for their support, and I can't wait to get started. And it's a privilege to be a part of this great department made up of amazing people, as you guys well know. So, dream come true and a great place to be. So, thank you.
Thank you, Lance. I'd also like to point out, if I may, that I want to appreciate former Chief Mark Stenson, who's here tonight for the swearing-in ceremony. Mark, thank you very much for being here.
Does former Chief Stenson want to come up and say anything at this point?
I normally shy away from the mic, as you know, but
But now that you're not the chief, maybe you're more
I can
open
say
to
things, and
speak.
you guys won't fire me, huh? No, I just wanted to recognize both these gentlemen tonight. Mr. Tim Wertz, a highly qualified individual. The city is very, very fortunate to get him. He brings with him a great, vast amount of information, knowledge, and education, and he's going to be a great asset for the department. I was very pleased when he applied, and I was even pleased more so when he took the job, because I always had a fear in the back of my head he was going to say no and stay with the Sheriff's Department. But the city, another quality employee the city has gained in Tim Wertz. Now, Lance, I can't say enough about Lance. As you know, we hired him as a community service officer. did an excellent job there. When he came to us as a community service officer, his long-range goal was to become a probation officer. And they're building the new probation juvenile hall, you know, and that's where he's going, and that's where he's going to go. And then as he got exposed to law enforcement, he got the niche, and he really got it. And I was just so proud when he applied for the recruit position. And I was even prouder yet when he came out #1 on that list. And he did excellent at the academy. He did Sonora good. I'm very proud of him. So once again, this will be another great employee the city's gotten. So that's all I have to say, but the city's really done great with these two, and hopefully future employees will follow their footsteps as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to item E, which is public comment. This is for a non-agenda item. The public may address the council on any item of public interest, not otherwise on the agenda that is within the jurisdiction of the city. No action may be taken. Matters to be addressed may be referred to city staff or placed on a subsequent meeting agenda. Speakers are limited to a 5-minute presentation. Do we have anyone that would like to address the council this evening? Seeing none, then I will bring it back to the council, and we'll move on to item F, the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar are considered routine and will be voted on in one motion unless a council member or member of the public has a question or wishes to discuss an item. In that case, the item will be removed from the consent calendar and considered separately. Item number 1 is to approve the following meeting minutes: City Council special meeting of February the 6th, 2017, City Council closed session meeting of February 6th, 2017, and City Council open session meeting of February 6, 2017. Item number 2 is approval to pay invoices of previously budgeted expenses on February the 22nd, 2017. And item number 3 is approval of disbursements in the amount of $133,119.50 on February 17, 2017 for payroll, inclusive of employee salaries, employer and employee taxes, and retirement contributions, and miscellaneous voluntary employee deductions.
Madam Mayor, I'll move for approval of the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any public comment? Then I'll bring it back to the council for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Passes 4 yeses. Item G, we have no public hearings. Any public comment? Item H, unfinished business, we have none. Any public comment? Item I is new business. Item number 1 is consideration to accept the fiscal year 2016-17 mid-year budget performance report and adopt resolution number 02-21-2017-A, approving the city's classification and salary schedules effective January 14, 2017. Ms. Calloway.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a little bit of a repeat from our study session, but maybe a little bit more detail. So the report that you have before you is the mid-year budget report. We're not asking for a lot of adjustments in terms of quantity, perhaps in dollar value. And there's only one adjustment, and that is for the one-time cash payouts for retirement and those handful of employees that have separated the city for other employment. The amount is $75,000 for the general fund, and those have typically come from reserves. To the extent that we have excess revenues over expenditures at year end, we would use those first, but we didn't want to come to the council at the end of the year and asking for $75,000 and it be a surprise. So that's why it's in the report at this time. If we look at our general fund revenues, they're trending very well. Sales tax and TOT are both trending high. So we're excited about that, and we'll keep watching that as we go into the late winter and spring months to see how that may change with tourism or not. And our general fund expenditures, the departments have done a great job of really controlling the supplies and materials categories of their expenditure budgets. That's really the discretionary piece that they have. And they they've done a good job. That's at about 37% of total budgeted amount. So just kind of kudos to them for doing that. And then there's a few other budget adjustments that are outlined in the report. Those are for the special revenue funds, the Measure I funds, and they have about $12,000 in total. For some equipment-related purchases. So the report was presented to the Finance Committee on the 16th. That was approved to bring forward to Council. One additional thing to point out is that we did direct and ask the departments to absorb costs where they could within their budget, meaning that we asked them not to bring forth a lot of budget adjustments, knowing that we might not have revenues to cover that. So what we're planning to do is transfer already approved budget dollars within line items. So, for example, if the department wants to use some of their supplies to pay for some necessary equipment or something, we're going to take the authority to allow them to transfer within those approved dollar values. So we're only bringing requests for new money to the council at this time. We're going to formalize that in a policy and bring it to the Finance Committee in March, but just as a heads up at this point, that's what we're doing. And then also the second part of the mid-year report is the new salary schedule. So PERS requires us to formally adopt a salary schedule for our employees and make that publicly available. There was a previously negotiated salary raise in 2017, the first pay period in January. So the salary schedule is an update to reflect that. And then also with the transition of the city attorney to a contract relationship, you can't have one classification on a salary schedule. So we've moved the city administrator to the management and executive class salary schedule. So the resolution is just authorizing that and approving that formality. The third section of the report is the update on the PERS discount rate that we talked pretty much in depth at our study session, and we put it in here so it was available for the public to see. We are expecting to have increases anywhere from 36,000 to about 280,000. Very rough estimates, but over the next 5 years, that'll be something we'll have to tackle and deal with. So happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Questions from the council for Ms. Callaway?
Oh, go ahead and go, George.
First, I apologize for missing the finance committee. There's no excuse. So this is for the first 6 months of our budget, and it expires in
June 30th.
June 30th. Sales tax is tracking at 43%, which includes the Christmas time. Does not include Christmas?
Well, we would get that in January.
Okay. So I was concerned about 43% at this point, halfway through, so we appear to be a little behind.
Yeah, we would see that collection come in January, and if you look at page 3 of the actual report, the chart, that's the value of having some of the historical data in here, is that we're trending ahead of where we were last year and pretty consistent with the prior 3 years. So it wasn't cause for alarm.
Other questions?
I was just going to say, looking through this, you've done an excellent job, as usual. And, thank you very much. And I know it's a team effort, but again, it's nice to see, the city's taxpayers can look through, and it's it's complicated when you have to sit down and do it. The way you put things together, you've simplified it so other people can look at it and go, oh, okay, I see where this is going. And I think the city as a whole is doing a pretty good job of spending its money, and I'm glad people can see it.
Thank you.
Nothing? Okay. On that note, I'll ask if there's any public comment on this subject. Then seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council for let's see, this is a motion.
Motion to accept.
Right, to accept. So I need a motion. Who are you at, Susan? There you go.
Still unaccustomed to the microphone.
Okay.
Makes me shy and timid. Okay, I move to adopt resolution number 02-21-2017-A, approving the city's classification salary schedules effective January 14, 2017.
I'll second that.
Mayor, just to be clear, I believe your motion also includes to accept the fiscal year 2016-17 budget. Okay.
That was my intent.
Yeah.
Okay, and we have a second?
Yes.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Any other public comment? Then I'll bring it back to the council for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Passes with 4 votes unanimously. Okay, item number 2 is consideration to approve the comparator agencies for the city's compensation and classification comp and class study. Ms. Callaway.
Okay, so this item has come before you at the end of last calendar year in December. We brought forth a contract to approve, or a memo to ask for authorization to approve a contract with Coffin Associates to conduct the comp and class study, and the council approved that. The consultant has been on site about 3 times now, 2 or 3 times. They've conducted orientation meeting with the employees, handed out position description questionnaires in which the employees filled those out based on what their roles and responsibilities are, and have substantially completed the classification study and are kind of just pulling it together at this point. The second part of that contract was to do a compensation study. The project team has met. The project team is 1 member of each of the associations. Mr. Miller and myself, we've met with the consultant and came up with this 11 list, a list of 11 comparators. The consultant uses some pretty unbiased criteria in terms of population, FTE ratio, city budgets, to kind of derive this list of, we had about 25 or so on the list. These 11 were the most comparable to Sonora, and the association members agreed and are okay with these 11. So with council approval, the next step, the consultant would begin work on pulling the data for these 11 and seeing where we fall in that salary range. The breakout, there's 3 large cities / Tuolumne County, Modesto, Tuolumne County, and Stockton. Those are the larger jurisdictions. We have 4 valley jurisdictions and 4 foothill agencies that we think will be fairly comparable in terms of the services that they offer and kind of the structure of the city and how the government is structured as well. So if any questions again?
Questions? Comments? Mark, do you have a question?
No.
Good evening, Callaway.
Hello.
I was curious why Angels Camp and Jackson score so poorly as comparators, and then I'm unfamiliar with this. Why are cities some 10 times larger than Sonora being included also as the large cities?
So the chart on page 2 that you're referring to, the score, it's a little counterintuitive. The lower the score, the more comparable the agency.
That is completely counterintuitive.
Yes. So Angels Camp is, in theory, per the criteria, the most comparable. In terms of Modesto and Stockton and Tuolumne County, probably more so, they do tend to be they attract applicants from us. So we would want to look at those. We don't necessarily lose a lot of people to those agencies, but in terms of job search for this area, somebody would be looking at Modesto or Stockton or Tuolumne County especially. So they're competitors in that sense.
Okay. Thank you very much. That seemed sensible to me, but not knowing, it's easier to ask.
Okay. Other questions?
Yeah, Jennifer, under the criteria used, could you explain to me what the full-time equivalence to resident ratio means?
So frequently we would look at how many employees are there per resident to provide services. So you could do that on a department basis if we wanted to know, how many fire employees do we have on a per resident basis, just to get a sense of where we fall if we're trying to look at objective criteria. It doesn't do much good to look at Modesto and say they have 150 police officers. What does that really mean? They have a lot more population to cover. They have a lot more people that they're serving. So we really want to look at a per resident ratio. Is there 0.5 police officers per resident? Are there, 2 police officers per resident? And that will give us a more comparable figure. So that's what that's trying to capture.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Comments? Any public comment? Seeing none, I will bring it back to the council for a motion to approve.
Madam Mayor, I'll move for approval of the 11 identified comparator agencies and receive the compensation study.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any other comments?
I have one comment that bothers me about these things.
Okay.
In general, not this one in particular, just in general. We're going to do a study, we're going to look at these other jurisdictions and compare what they're doing to what we're paying. And then a year from now, Eagles Camp is going to look at Sonora, we're going to probably have to raise, And then a year from now, Eagles Camp is going to do the same thing and look at ours. Oh, they raised theirs, we got to raise ours. And the merry-go-round goes around and around. And I don't know how to jump off it. But it's to me, it's a never-ending cycle that, unfortunately, government agencies are getting into, and the private sector is certainly a lot different.
Mr. Miller, would you also like to make any comment regarding that comment based upon maybe other reasons that we're doing this?
Yeah, I think
Why this was brought to the council?
when and if the council decides to make any adjustments is certainly the council's decision, and it doesn't have to occur just because another agency's made some adjustments. But one of the reasons this is being done is there has not been a comprehensive evaluation of our total compensation for our employees as compared to other agencies, whether they're competitors or similar agencies. A lot of the decisions have been on a more ad hoc basis or on an individual basis as we've done recruitment. So through this process, we'll set benchmarks and we'll index positions off those benchmarks in the different categories. We'll look at our total compensation, not just salary, as compared to what other agencies are doing. Some of our benefits, in my experience, is better than in terms of retirement benefit and health benefit is better than other agencies will be comparing to. And while they may have a higher salary, we really are looking at what is the total package. So that's part of the analysis as well. The other part of the study, which will be accomplished by the use of these same cities, are the classifications and are the people in this city, in a smaller city, that do maybe more based on the position description than would otherwise occur in another agency, being properly compensated. Should those positions be reclassified? So that's the other half of the class and comp study. You may have, if you've been to the board meetings, they've gone through a similar process. There's been some positions there reclassified and some pretty significant adjustments to positions that were way out in terms of their compensation. So, but it's as long as I've been here, and as long as, well, not as maybe some of the others, but I'm not sure when the last comprehensive study like this was undertaken. So it was time, it really was time to do that. But the challenge will be how we're able to bring salaries into adjustment given our limited resources, if they're that far out of comparative. So, but that's something we'll deal with the council and through the negotiation process.
Yes, Mark.
One last question. How long, with our bargaining units, how long do our contracts usually run? Is it 3 years, 5 years?
The current agreements have been on in some cases, a year-to-year basis or a 2-year basis. We would hope to, through this process, renegotiate agreements that are benchmarked around a 3-year basis. It's a time-consuming process. You don't want to have to do it every year. Because of the economy and uncertainties, the more recent agreements have been rather short-term, and we'll be looking to renegotiate for longer terms in the upcoming negotiation process.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any public comment? Then I need a motion to authorize signature. Oh, wait a minute, I don't either. I need a motion to, did we already do this? Yes, thank you. Thank you. Did we vote on this yet? Thank you. There you had it. The discussion totally threw me off. Okay, so I will bring it back to the council for a vote. All in favor? Aye. And it passes unanimously. Okay, now we'll move on to item number 3, consideration to authorize the mayor to sign a letter on behalf of the city committing to implementing the assistance to firefighters, which is the SAFER grant, if awarded.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. So I come before you tonight. The department has applied again for the 2016 SAFER grant. Just for a little bit of background, this is the position, the 3rd fire engineer that we have that completes 2 full-time positions for each shift. So currently on our 3 shifts in the department, we have a captain and a fire engineer. The 3 captain positions and 2 of the engineer positions are funded fully through the city, and the 3rd engineer position is currently under a SAFER grant. The 2016 SAFER grant process, they've changed it a little bit this year, and one of the reasons is because over the last couple of years, departments and cities and jurisdictions have applied for SAFER grant positions and been awarded that grant and then taken it to their council or their boards, and they have been rejected. And so the SAFER funding from the federal government has been tied up and has caused issues with trying to recirculate that money and get it back out, and it's had awards been lost because cities have been awarded it and then turned it down, and there's not enough time to get it back out to other agencies. So this year, because of that hardship, SAFER is now requiring a letter from the governing body acknowledging the intent to accept a SAFER grant if it is awarded. The objective that we have is to authorize the mayor to sign a letter on behalf that if we are awarded this grant, our intent is to accept the award and to maintain our staffing levels of the 3 captains and the 3 engineers during the 3-year performance period. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on that, but basically the letter states that the Sonora City Council would be committed to maintaining the current staffing levels of the fire department and not incur any layoffs during the performance period. This would be funded through our Measure I account. They've extended the performance period from 2 years to 3 years this year, and they're also asking for a cash match, which I've met with our finance director, and the Measure I fund for fire has enough in that to fund it for 3 years. So I wanted to make sure of that before we put in for something that we can afford it as well. So,
questions or comments from the council?
Seems rather like a gimme when, as long as we can afford the matching funds, and I presume that's because we need the person.
Absolutely, absolutely. When I first started in 2015, we actually had 2 of the engineer positions in the SAFER grant, and we were able to absorb 1 of those positions, so 2 of our engineers are fully funded now through our Measure I, and hopefully, you know, the economy will keep growing and we'll be able eventually to get the 3rd position fully funded, but until so, we definitely need the SAFER grant to continue that 3rd position.
By way of background, just real quickly, the sales tax initiative provided for these engineering positions, and all 3 were filled and paid for out of the Measure I funds. But over a period of years, given the amount of revenue that there was and the expenditures to fund those 3 positions, there was a deficit built up in the department of about $250,000. So we started cutting positions or filling them on a half-time basis. And that led to the initial application for the SAFER grant funds was to restore those positions, which we were able to through the fund. And then in this last cycle, reduce that to 1 employee and then continue that on the same basis. It allowed us to reduce or eliminate effectively the deficit, restore some of the money back to the Measure I fund, which is now able to be used to do the match in this third position that's required in this grant cycle. So there was a need to make some adjustments to address that deficit, because when you have a deficit in any of these funds, like you see in your cash report, that's made up by the general fund reserves. And that wasn't the intent, was to use the general fund reserves to maintain those positions. It was the Measure I responsibility. So we're back in a positive position. The grants helped us do that. The allocation isn't enough to fully fund all 3 positions, and we hope by the time we're done with this 3-year cycle, we'll be able to do that.
It's my presumption that you're recommending this because we believe that we will be able to fully fund it when the grant expires, and at the same time that we at least expect to be able to meet the PERS obligations for the same employees. And that's, I mean, like I say, presuming that you're pushing it because you not see it through a rosy future through rose glasses, but just with hard figures say this is something we probably can afford, and also that these are positions where in the public interest we need to fill them when it's possible, that I support this.
If I could, I was just going to, Jennifer reminded me, the SAFER grant employees do not have the PERS impacts.
Okay, but
for that position.
We are filling the position with the hopes that when it expires, we will keep the person, correct?
There is there's no requirement of that from the grant, but the intent is hopefully if Measure I has enough funding in it to fulfill that position as well.
Okay, well, I mean, that's what I was...
I mean, that's the hopefulness of it, but again, my crystal ball, I left it at home, but hopefully the economy will keep going.
That's where Yogi Berra had the best quote ever. Predictions are tricky,
exactly.
Especially about the future. So,
at least it does give us 3 more years of performance period that is has some federal funding that will help build up the Measure I fund.
That's why I say I believe it's a gimme, at least with the knowledge we have at this juncture, and that's all we can go off.
Well, they definitely have changed the requirements a little bit. The last 2 SAFER grants that we have received have been 100% fully funded. So, you know, they're requiring now, and I think too, it's due to that hardship that they've received of awarding a grant to a city or a district and them rejecting it with not being able to put those people on. So.
Did you say we have a 50% match?
No, it's 25% the first year, 25 the second, and then 65 the third year.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is something we can't afford not to approve and move forward on. And I'm just guessing that jurisdictions that applied for it and then turned it down was because they needed to match funds and they didn't have the funds?
Actually, no, they haven't been matching funds until this year's application. So I think some of the reasons, I mean, I can't speak on behalf of every city, but with some of the things I've read on why jurisdictions have turned them down is their intent, again, is to fully fund the positions once the performance period is over. And when you have a larger city hiring 20 to 25 SAFER grant employees, that's a large cost to have to continue afterwards. And I think their board was just not willing to say in 2 years or 3 years we're going to keep 25 people at the cost of X million dollars that we can't afford right now. So they went ahead and turned it down.
Well, I just want to compliment the department on going after these type of grants to help fill positions within the department, and so let's hope that we're successful on this one as well.
I hope so,
and that
yes.
we're in the financial position to be able to do the matching funds. So, any other questions or comments? Any public comment? Then I'll bring it back to the council for a motion.
I would like to move that we authorize the mayor to sign the letter on behalf of the city committing the implemented assistance to firefighters safer grant is awarded.
I'll second it.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Any public comment? Then I'll bring it back to the council for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief New. In our packets tonight, we had monthly reports from each one of our departments: community development, fire, police, and public works. Item K is Vision Sonora Committee report. This evening, we do not have a report, but I do want to say to the general public that our next meeting is on Thursday, February the 23rd at 9 a.m. right here at City Hall in the council chambers. Item L is communications. We have none this evening. So we will move on to council member department head reports. And I'll start with our department heads, and since Ms. Callaway is right here in the front row, we'll start with her first. Anything to report this evening?
I gave you all my good information already, so I'll pass. Thank you.
Thank you. And since our police chief is sitting right next to her, Chief Harden, anything else?
Just very quickly, Mayor. Tomorrow, Congressman Tom McClintock, 4th District Congressman, is having a town hall meeting here in Sonora at 6 o'clock at the high school auditorium. Tonight he's holding one in Mariposa County, and we all know that the motion has been well chronicled in these town hall meetings across the United States. So your police department will staff the event tomorrow along with the assistance of the sheriff's office. The district attorney's office is assisting us, as well as CAL FIRE and Sonora Fire. We think we have a plan that will ensure the safety of all those who are in attendance. Our mission primarily is to ensure that the event is safe for all those who want to attend. It is Congressman McClintock's meeting, so he will decide when it starts and when it ends. If there's diminishing results, it won't be my call. Our primary focus will be to ensure the peace, welfare, and safety of all those in attendance, and that will happen tomorrow night. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Chief New, anything from the fire department? Nothing to report. Okay. Ms. Kellogg, anything from the community development department? Yes, roll on up here.
I'm going to the doctor Thursday, and I'm hoping he's going to let me walk. And I cannot scoot around here any longer. But a couple things. One is we had the 5K run for the Dragoon Gulch Trail on Sunday. There was a large crowd. We lucked out. The weather was lousy the day before, and the weather was horrible the day after, and it didn't rain, and it was a nice day out there, a nice morning for them to get through the walks. So the Adventist group had pancakes out there for everybody again this year, and Leslie did a great job. It just turned out to be a really nice event. The mayor was out there, and we had a great time. So hopefully they'll bring in some revenue, additional revenue for the trail. The other thing is, on the Vision Sonora committee meeting, at the minutes that I have from the meeting, we were looking at, because of the timing change, and we were not going to have February, but going to have a March meeting because of the change in the dates.
Oh,
for the, yeah, so there won't be a February 23rd Vision Sonora meeting. It'll carry over to March. So the next meeting will be the regular scheduled meeting for March.
Which will be March the 23rd.
No, it's March, it's the March 9th.
That's right, we did move it.
Yeah.
We moved it to March the 9th.
And they were too close together, so we won't have a February meeting, we will have a March meeting.
Okay, so I will restate what I said about the next meeting.
No problem.
The Vision Sonora Committee, it will be on March the 9th at 9 a.m. here at City Hall.
Okay,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see, I don't see anybody else in the audience, so Mary Jane, anything from the city clerk? Okay. Anything from our city attorney?
Nothing, but happy to be back with you after maybe it took over for a couple of weeks.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Miller, anything? Okay, then I'll start over here with Council Member Hawkins.
Just a real quick funny story. My all four of my children have been joining me at the council meetings lately, and my two youngest are back there now, and they look forward to the council meetings because they get a toy every time they come, as long as they're quiet. So bribery works. So we go to the dollar store, and they get to pick out any toy they want and food, and as long as they're quiet. So if the camera was looking at me and I was looking off winking, I was winking at my little daughter.
Well, I promise to come back if you buy me a toy.
That's all I have.
Councilmember Plummer.
Nothing important, but I think Councilmember Hawkins ought to recategorize that instead of as a gift or a bribe to say this is pay for fair work. Because that's their job when they're here.
That is true. That is very true.
Very good. Councilmember Segarini.
Yeah, on February 8th, I attended the Sonora County Transportation Council meeting. On the 10th, the Economic Development Authority meeting. And that was an important meeting for the Economic Development Board. We have been a member of the Central Sierra Economic Development District through the Economic Development Authority. We kind of resurrected that organization when it was on its last legs. Larry Cope has been the main administrator for that organization, and he's been putting in a lot of time for that mission with minimal amount of financial return to the Economic Development Authority for the work that he does. So the Economic Development Authority Board decided to cut ties with the Central Sierra Economic Development District. We will sustain going forward with that organization until such time as they come up with a new organization or how they're going to put that thing together. It was voted by the Central Sierra District Board to continue that organization, which is a 5-county, I believe, organization, 4-county organization. And we all believe that regional economic development benefits everybody within the foothill area. But we have made the decision to cut ties there, so Larry Cope is spending 60% of his time on that organization, and we're getting about 20% of the funding that we need in our budget. So it made sense for us to do that, and I will continue to be the representative on that organization as long as they decide how the organization is going to move forward. At that point, I'm going to miss the next. I'll have to ask you if you can make the next meeting. And on the 17th, we have the Central Sierra Economic Development District meeting. Our town hall meeting is tomorrow morning. Chief Harden, I've got you on the agenda to introduce you to the merchants. I'll be here. I'll be here. And Mayor on March 9th for the vision. I'm not going to be able to make that. I've got some cataract surgery planned on that morning. So I will be this.
And okay, I do want to say that I'm not several of the meetings that the other council members attend, I also attend, but I do want to thank the Foothills organization for 3 years that they love and cherish Dragoon Gulch Trail so much that they continue to come back and do this run. And it was a pleasure to be there helping to direct the runners as they were coming back into the end of the run. That's a real community effort, and it's great that they're teaching their students on how to give back to a community. So that's wonderful. That's all I have for this evening, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 5:45.